A mysterious postcard, creased and worn, lies on a kitchen counter. The paper is soft to the touch, the ink slightly smudged, the edges frayed like old denim. You are the recipient, eyes fixed on the looping script that promises to turn everything you thought you knew upside down. What secrets does it reveal? By the end, you'll see this postcard is just the beginning of a decades-long nightmare. The question on everyone's mind is, who is behind the Circleville Letters, and what do they want? Circleville, Ohio, sits like a postcard itself, tree-lined streets, a modest downtown where the smell of fresh-cut hay mixes with diesel from the county trucks. Neighbors leave their doors unlocked, kids ride their bikes past the high school until the sky deepens to violet, and the rhythm of daily life is punctuated by the clank of the old bell at the town hall. But in the spring of 1976, that quiet cadence was shattered. Mailboxes, once filled only with bills and birthday cards, began to swell with letters that felt like cold fingers slipping under doors. Each envelope was stamped with no return address, the paper thin enough that a faint whiff of printer ink lingered when the flap was lifted. Inside, the words were sharp, threatening, and unnervingly personal, as if the writer had been standing behind the recipient, watching their every move. Mary Gillispie's life turned on its axis that year. She was a school bus driver, a woman who greeted the town's children each morning with a warm smile, her hands always cradling a steaming mug of black coffee while she waited for the first pupil to climb aboard. Her laughter often floated out of the bus windows, a thin, bright sound that cut through the morning fog. Yet the letters she began to receive were anything but bright. They accused her of a secret affair with Gordon Massie, the school superintendent, a man known around town for his meticulous care of a rose garden behind his modest home, his habit of trimming the hedges at dawn while the rest of Circleville still slept. The first note arrived on a Tuesday, slipped between the pages of her route ledger. The paper felt damp, as if it had been taken from a rainy day and never dried. "I know what you do behind the school doors," it read, the ink smeared where the writer's hand had rushed. Mary's hands trembled as she read, the coffee growing cold against her skin, the hallway lights flickering overhead. She stared at the words, the rustle of the paper echoing louder than the bus engine outside. By the next week, another letter arrived, this one more insistent, its margins crowded with a scrawl that claimed the writer could control minds, that Mary was already under a hypnotic spell. The letters grew bolder, and the town reacted. Gordon Massie, who tended his roses with the same patience he once applied to his students, found his reputation stained. Rumors swirled like autumn leaves, and the pressure became so great that he resigned, his garden tools left abandoned on his once proud lawn. Mary's world, built on routine and quiet kindness, cracked open, and she began to suspect that someone she trusted, perhaps a fellow bus driver, a neighbor who always waved from the corner, was the source of this cruelty. A specific, concrete fact that complicates this story is that the letters often referenced mind control and hypnosis. The writer claimed to have the ability to bend thoughts, to stitch nightmares into waking lives. That claim made every resident wonder whether the letters were merely words on paper or whether a darker, unseen force was at work. The investigation into the Circleville Letters was led by the local police department, a modest squad accustomed to pothole reports and missing cats, now thrust into a maze of cryptic messages. Joined by a few FBI agents whose shoes clicked on the linoleum floor of the precinct, they gathered hundreds of letters and postcards, each one catalogued, each one examined under magnifying glasses that caught the faint glint of toner particles. The letters were signed with many pseudonyms, but the most persistent voice was that of the Circleville Writer. Within 6 hours, the police would receive another letter, this one more threatening than the last. New evidence surfaced when a man named Paul Freshour was arrested. Paul, a longtime friend of Gordon's, was known for his habit of walking his mutt, Rufus, at dusk, the dog's collar jingling softly against the evening air. He had a history of mental health struggles, his voice often wavering between calm and agitation. Charged with menacing and telecommunications harassment, Paul maintained his innocence until his death in 1994, a quiet passing that left a lingering question in the town's collective mind. The police were convinced he was the Circleville Writer, but doubt lingered like a low-humming insect in the night. The twist in this story is that the Circleville Letters may not have been the work of a single person. Some investigators, poring over the handwriting variations, began to whisper that multiple voices could have been shaping the narrative, that the letters were part of a larger, twisted game of cat and mouse that spanned years. This possibility reshaped everything we thought we knew about the case. Everything changes when we consider the fact that the Circleville Letters stopped abruptly in 1994, the same year Paul Freshour died. Yet the silence that followed felt less like an end and more like a held breath, waiting for something else to break. The final reveal is that the true identity of the Circleville Writer remains a mystery to this day. But what if I told you that the letters may have been just a small part of a much larger conspiracy, one that reaches the highest levels of power and corruption? That revelation turns the case from a local curiosity into a window onto a broader world of psychological manipulation and control. Some argue the letters were part of a government experiment in mind control, their cryptic patterns designed to test the effects of fear on a small community. Others point to the darker possibility of a serial killer, using the letters as taunts, each missive a breadcrumb leading deeper into a labyrinth of horror. One thing is certain, the truth behind the Circleville Letters is still out there, waiting to be uncovered. What do you think is the most plausible explanation for the Circleville Letters? And what does it say about the darkness that lurks in the human heart? As we delve deeper, we begin to untangle a web of theories and conspiracies. The government experiment theory suggests the letters were a psychological operation, a test of how a tightly knit town would respond when its sense of safety was eroded. Proponents note the contradictory nature of the letters, sometimes cryptic, sometimes overtly threatening, as if they were designed to keep recipients off balance, their nerves frayed like old rope. Dissenting voices argue this is far-fetched, that a lone individual with a twisted sense of humor could have produced the same effects. Another line of thought points to a serial killer, a figure who might have used the letters as a means to control, to frighten, to assert dominance over victims before a final act. The letters contain veiled threats, references to violent acts that feel like clues left at a crime scene. Yet some observers note the tone often shifts to playful sarcasm, a cruel joke that undercuts any genuine menace. The investigation unearthed a surprising twist. A former resident of Circleville stepped forward, claiming inside knowledge of the writer's identity. According to this individual, the letters were not the product of a solitary mind but a collective effort, a small group of townspeople fed up with the veneer of peace and eager to sow chaos. The group, he whispered, included people who felt marginalized, who saw the letters as a way to expose hidden inequities and corrupt practices. Just as we begin to piece together this puzzle, another theory emerges, suggesting the letters served as a form of social commentary. Their content, rife with accusations of infidelity, corruption, and hypocrisy, could be read as a mirror held up to Circleville's own pretensions. The letters, then, become less about terror and more about exposing the rotten core beneath the town's picture-perfect facade. All these possibilities swirl together, each one pulling the emotional register higher. Curiosity sharpens, doubt coils tighter, discovery bursts into view, shock flares, evidence piles, reversal overturns, and the consequences loom like a storm on the horizon. And then, as if the very act of investigation summoned it, a mysterious package appears on the doorstep of the narrator. Inside, a single letter, unsigned, the handwriting unmistakable, an echo of the Circleville writer's voice, now turned directly toward us. The paper is thin, the ink a deep, midnight black, each line etched with a weight that feels like a stone dropped into still water. The letter reads, "The truth is not what you think it is. The truth is not about me, or my identity. The truth is about the town, and the secrets that it keeps. Look closer, and you will see." And with that, the page ends, the silence hanging heavy, the words reverberating in the empty room. The town may have hidden a darker history, with the letters only hinting at the full range of secretive actions that took place there. What secrets lie beneath the quiet streets, the well-tended roses, the familiar faces? What does it say about the human heart, that we are capable of such darkness and deception? The Circleville Letters stand as a mirror, reflecting not only the town's hidden sins but also the shadows within each of us. In the end, the truth behind the Circleville Letters remains a mystery, a puzzle that may never be fully solved. What other secrets are hiding in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered?